Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Page Turners Plus. Last time you saw us, we were reflecting on Lyonel Trouillot's Antoine de Gommiers in French. Today, we'll be interviewing Lyonel. Lyonel, welcome to Page Turners Plus.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yes, it's our pleasure. So, I guess we could start with the basics. Who was Antoine de Gommiers, and why did you want to write about him?
Antoine de Gommiers was a very famous Ungar and devin, as we call it here, who lived in the first half of the 20th century. He was really very famous, and people came from all over the country, and some people did come from other countries to see him. He had the reputation of being able to tell the future, and his the belief in his power was such that his name became part of a Creole expression. And people do say in Haiti, somewhere pour Antoine Negomie Powell. If you have behavior people find stupid or bad, they will tell you, well, what's going to happen to you. Even Antoine de Gommiers did not see it coming. And I asked myself, how come such a famous person, there are no recent text about him? And I know that a student from the Faculty of Ethnology in the 60s wrote a memoir about him, but the memoir is lost. And like I said, why is it that we claiming to be Asian writers, we claiming to be Asian professors and specialists in sciences humaines, we did not pay attention to Antoine de Gommiers. And my simple, very simple answer is that people from the elite or the oligarchy, as my friend Jean Casimir calls them, we just don't pay attention to the beliefs of the people from the peasantry or from the cities or the ghettos. And that's why I decided to write about Antoine de Gommiers. Like I say in French, Antoine de Gommiers, c'est une légende qui traîne par terre. So I wanted to pick it up and pay tribute to his figure, but more than that, to the Asian popular culture.
And I mean, I suppose on behalf of the panel, I could thank you for that because we all absolutely enjoyed this, and being from the English speaking Caribbean, it was a pleasure that it was translated. It was such a good thing that it was translated as well because we were exposed to something that ordinarily we wouldn't have been exposed to. So I don't know if Francine wants to pick up here.
Sure, we can jump into some more specific questions about the text now. At the beginning of the novel, you quote Baudelaire, who said, Voltaire, like all lazy people, hated the mysterious. Then at page 10, we read from Frankie's text where it says, History does not weather the passage of time the same as the legends do. Can you talk us through those ideas? You just talked about the fact that Antoine de Gommiers is a legend. So perhaps you can explain how that ties in.
Well, to me, there is the reality, the bad side of history that makes history, like Engels used to say. We have to explore that bad side of history, see the things the way they did happen, and try to understand the relations between the facts of life, the facts of history. That is one side of our human duty. And Marx and others uh, give us ways to do such a work. But on the other side, I feel there's also the necessity, the need to leave a place for dreams, for mysteries, for ourselves to say, well, I don't understand everything. I cannot pretend to have the keys to explain everything. And it is very easy for one to say, well, I understand everything, 1 plus 1 equals 2, and well, this is the meaning of things. I believe things carry some meanings that we don't understand. That is why there is such a thing like poetry. When you read a poem, can you say that you have the key to what is all that is said by the poem? No, I don't think so. And to me, I must confess, uh, Voltaire was a very bad writer, and no, no feeling. The lack of mystery Baudelaire denounced, and to me, that those are the two ways to try to be a human being, trying to understand exactly how things happen, why things are happening. And that is maybe the only way to try to change things. And like I said, on the other side, within oneself, try also to say, well, there are things that we can't pretend to understand. We can only live with them. We can only have our feelings about some things, and let's leave a place for a dream, for a right to dream, or right to say, I don't understand. And that is why in Antoine de Gommiers, you have Frankie on one side and Titoni on the other side. The dreamer, you can call him a dreamer, and the one who has a sharp vision of life. I would say one is some sort of a Marxist in his own way, and the other one is some sort of a poet in his own way.
Oh, thank you for that, Kasua.
Yeah, I really love this characterization as one as a Marxist and one as a poet. And the two boys at the center of the two brothers at the center of the novel um, are such an interesting pairing because on the surface they seem like quite different people, right? You have Frankie and very much the dreamer, and Titoni, who's very much the streetwise kid, who would have nothing in common if not for the fact that they were united by blood. They're brothers and they're almost identical brothers at that. And I think what strikes me as really, really interesting is that on the when I've read the novel the first time, and I think when we discussed it, Francine had too, we both felt like we were slightly dismissive of Frankie. Even though we're people that love ideas, we love books, and we kind of we were really drawn to the story or the narrative of Titoni. Um, and that's really interesting, I think, because in a sense, the novel is done that way, right? It's made to feel like Titoni is the real one and Frankie is the dreamer, and their paths cross sort of in quite interesting ways. And I keep using the word interesting, which is very unhelpful. I appreciate it. Sorry, everyone. My vocabulary is lame today, which is awkward. But what I will say is, or what the question I have is it intended to be such a cynical novel about the power of the intellectual to affect change? Because it feels that way, and I think it's remarkable that you've been able to do it, because obviously to write a novel is in itself an intellectual pursuit. Um, does that question make sense? It makes sense in my head.
What would be the exact question?
Is are you cynical about the power of intellectuals to create change, or is it just the way that the novel plays out incidentally?
No, I don't think I'm cynical about anything. Like I said, I tried to put in view two ways of being in being alive, two ways of seeing things, and two ways of facing the present and also the history. And I believe also that in the end, I don't know if I did it in a way, in an interesting way. But in the end, uh, the contradiction between the very realistic approach of Titoni and the dreamlike world of Frankie, in the end, I tried to make one of the two. And I'd say un se divise en deux, like some philosophers would say. And in the end, I tried to make one uh, human being of the two brothers. The idea would be that whatever is human belongs to me. Dreams belong to me. They are human. And the realistic approach of the world, my place in the world, uh, is human. So, can I try being a human being to make all that mine? And yes, when you read the novel until the end, until the very end, uh, you can have the impression that they are so different. The only thing they have together is that they are brothers, and they have that mother they both love. But in the end of the novel, uh, I believe in some ways Frankie becomes Titoni and Titoni becomes Frankie. And that is to me, that is the positive element of the novel.
So I wanted to talk about power and power structures in the novel. So we see power expressed in various ways in this novel. There's the brute force of the state, which terrorizes citizens to prevent dissent, and government workers who harass citizens for bribes. Pepe and other crime bosses fill a vacuum which is left by an indifferent government. But there's also power in Antoine de Gommiers' hold on the popular imagination and the power of ideas, which characters like Maître Cantave and the president of the Historical Society bring to the table. What I want to know is, did you consciously want to explore these specific expressions of power? And is there anything specific about the nature of power in the Haitian context that you wanted to explore in this novel?
Uh, I don't think there is something specific in the Asian context that I wanted to explore, but the question of power is very important to me, and I believe in all my novels. Uh, we all have a little power. What do we make of it? And I believe what runs the world and is the use of of power. So what is power? How do you come to gain power? How do you come to lose power? And what is it that you do with power? And of course, when you talk about power, you have to talk about the state. You have to talk about the institutions. You have to talk about the ideologies that come into our heads and make us accept the rule of society or reject the rule of society. So the question is of power is, to me, the main question humans have to ask themselves about: what am I? What is my place in the distribution of power? And what can I do with the little power I have? Yes, the question of power is very important to me, and I must confess that it is a question that is not a question for Lyonel Trouillot. I would say with my very old friends, and I call them friends rather than family. I don't like the word family. The late Michel Wolf Trouillot, Evelyn Trouillot, my brother and my sister, but like I said, my friends, more than the, the idea of family and others. Uh, we've been thinking about power for a long time, and when you look at the world, look what's happening in Gaza and Israel. Look at what's happening in Haiti right now. The world is made of distribution of power and use of power. And very often, the distribution and the use of power does not go to serve the common people, but serve to maintain rules of inequality and injustice.
That's a really potent answer there, and I suppose in a sense, while it may not have been deliberate, you also sort of explained or presented the different structures of powers, and they sort of exist now. And you mentioned the situation in Haiti, where you have the government, then you have the people who sort of run the alleyway. You have different levels of power that could affect an individual's life, and that was presented in your novel as well. So that was quite nice. Uh, Francine?
I wanted to move on to another aspect that we were interested in finding out how or why you wanted to examine it, and that's specifically related to Pepe, who was not a talented scholar, but at the same time, he's not a complete mindless brute. He's an effective crime boss. In fact, he's one of the people who have some of the power and reflects on the probability that he will eventually be deposed as head of his crime mob. And he's capable of reflecting on this in a very astute way. Is there something about the nature of intelligence that you wanted to explore when you created Pepe?
No, not about intelligence, but about you. Humanity. We must learn to suppose to the other the level of humanity we suppose to ourselves. And very often we do think that people are bad or ignorant, and we have a tendency to classify people of the world and say, well, this is the bad one. And I wanted for us to know, to remember two things. One, Pepe was not born gang leader nor killer, and he became a gang leader and a killer. What is the process that made him what he became? That's the first thing. The other thing is that we all carry good and bad, beauty and ugliness, and positive dreams and very, I'd say, things that are very in the immediate use of life. And I, I don't see myself being a writer born in the Haitian petite bourgeoisie, looking at someone not like Pepe and not giving him a chance to, in some aspects of his life, in some aspects of his thinking, to be a human being as human as I am. And to me, that is very, very important. The idea of the singularity, of the interiorité of gang leaders or simple people living in the popular classes, very poor people, people to whom life has given nothing. And let's look at those people with some respect and in admitting that they are human beings like we are. I'm not
Thank
sure
you.
I will use the word terrorist against anyone.
I mean, Pepe is such a complex character, and thank you for kind of expounding on why you've made him so really. That he is both demon and hero is such a surprising but kind of wonderful element of the novel. And I guess in a similar way, another thing that maybe surprises or would surprise the reader possibly is that you pay real attention to the space that women occupy in these zones that you explore of Haiti. Um, there are there are many times where even though the main character, these two brothers, the presence of women in the story is very keenly felt. And I guess one of the questions I wanted to ask was, is Grandma Hortense a real person in the same way that Antoine de Gommiers is, or is she a creation, sort of parallel to him that you invented yourself?
No, Antoine de Gommiers is a real person. The rest, most of the rest, the other characters, I created them. But the things Antoine de Gommiers supposedly did do, I did not create. Uh, I did some research, and it is said that Antoine de Gommiers, at one time, a guy came to his info and he said, no, 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 no. I don't want him to get in because he's going to die very soon, and I don't want him to die in my laku. So uh, the facts, the facts uh, imputés to Daniel, to Antoine de Gommiers, are parts of his legend. I did not create uh, anything related to the legend of Antoine de Gommiers, but the other characters I did create them. As far as the place of women in that particular novel or in all my novels, and I don't know, I cannot write the books and explain what is going in my mind at every moment. of the writing, but I admit that it is uh, a main thing in my writing, the condition of women and their place in the society, and also the question of interiority. We have also a tendency to see uh, women, but not the woman, the particular woman. I hate when people say, well, the Asian women are carrying the economy, the Asian women are this and that, and that's sort of glorification. And, I think we must remember that each one of them is a singular person. What is going on in the mind of that singular person? And how come we created a society in the case of Haiti, but that's not the only one in the world, I believe. It's still the case in most, if not all, societies in the world. How come we create societies in which uh, women have less rights than men and suffer in a way more than men? And living in Haiti, I can see that every day. I see the conditions in which single mothers live in the Asian slums or, or ghettos, and I see even in the I'd say aristocratic of or bourgeois world in Haiti how women are treated as inferior compared to men, and I write with what I see, and of course, women are very present in my work.
As a woman who reads, I'm very grateful for that. Thank you.
I mean, it's sort of sticking with the presence of mothers in the slums, in the alleyway, as presented in Antoine de Gommiers. You describe the mothers of the alley beating their children almost as a ritual. Why did you want to explore this? And I feel like a lot of people of Caribbean descent would be very interested in your answer here.
Well, come to visit Haiti and you'll see it, and I believe that's not only in Haiti, in the well, in the structure and distribution of power. The reality is very often in the ghettos that the men beat on the women and the women beat on the children, and that is, I would say, alas, the way things often go. Not to say that every mother in every slum beats uh, children, but it is a common practice, and it is like it is admitted that things uh, have to go this way. The father, well, I would say the genitor more than the father, uh, he has the woman pregnant, and he leaves, and she has to take care of the child, and to take care of the child, uh, she calls another man to help her. The other man gets her pregnant and leaves, and she ends up with three, four, five, sometimes children, and she has to take care of all those little people running around, having their own needs, and causing trouble in the neighborhood. And at one point, she starts slapping and even sometimes kicking. And who am I to blame? To blame her? I just tell the thing the way it happens. Even though I still try to put nuances into that. Into that, it's not that the women are mad. It's not that they are uh, méchant. It is that this is how life brings people to act sometimes. And rather than judging those people, we should ask ourselves, how come, once again, we created such a world that forces people to act like that? But I don't want, I don't want to run away from reality. And I'm not going to make some sort of sense uh, of a character, the character of a woman who has four children, and she's the only one to have to find the money to feed them, to have to find the time to take care of them, and yeah, she gets mad and she slaps.
Thank you for that, Francine.
I'm gonna kind of continue the theme a little bit. Uh, we also saw a scene where some mothers were beating their children because of exploring their sexuality, and Frankie tells us that the little girl being beaten is simply curious and without any other toys to play with than her own body. We're wondering, what are you inviting readers to think about in this particular instance?
Well, I don't have a specific intent in each sentence that I write. Simply, once again, this is part of the reality. A child, she wants to know things, and one way she has to develop knowledge is touching. So she has to touch, and that is what's going on in her mind. That is a need and a condition. But the mother, uh, on the other side, what she worries about, well, if she starts uh, thinking about sexuality, what happens to me is going to happen to her. She's going to get pregnant very soon, and I'll be a grandmother. I will have to take care of her and of a child, and her life will be wasted as I believe my life has been wasted. Once again, what I try to show up different aspects of reality and how uh, everyone acts and thinks uh, in conformity to the person's particular problems. The problem of the mother is not the problem of the child. The child, she wants to know about life, about everything in life, which is normal. The mother, she wants to be sure that her daughter won't get pregnant to her. And life is made of contradictions. But
Thank you.
I'm not judging the mother and I'm not judging the child.
I mean, your novel is so dense with so many rich, varied characters. It was a real joy to kind of fall into this new world um, of this Haiti and the Haiti of the past through the stories we hear of Antoine of Gommiers. I think I'm just wondering, are any of the characters particularly close to you? Are there any characters that resemble yourself or people that you know that you is perhaps a favorite character? And is there a character? A second part of that question is that is a recurring character in your novels?
Are there recurring characters in my novels? Was
Yeah,
that the
and or is there a character that you particularly prefer in this story that you have a particular affinity to?
Well, if I have one, I will tell you. I don't think it's important once the book is written. It belongs to the readers. My secret parts in it. I don't think.
Why is it a
I
secret?
think there must remain secret. To me, it's not important. But in that particular novel, I don't think there is a character that I would prefer to the others. Uh, I like the character of Danilo. Uh, I like the idea of someone who's there for the other. Uh, Not too many questions. You need me, I'm here. And With regards to how I create a character, I steal from people in real life. I can take a piece of a friend, I can take a piece of someone I met in the streets, I can take a piece of a conversation, and I put all that together to create the characters. But I will not say that I follow someone in his or her life to create a character. Like I like to say, to me, I c'est du bricolage. I I take things from different people and I put some of them together to create a character.
So you just mentioned that Danilo was one of the characters that you liked. So I want to speak a bit about Danilo. He was quite the intriguing character. So Tony tells us that his friend Danilo doesn't have a birth certificate and often changes his last name. And he says, quote, "Here there are so many Danilos going by names that fit the truth of the moment." End quote. Is Tony telling us that truth, and that's in inverted commas, is not immutable? And could you talk us through that?
Well, I don't know about the idea of truth. Truth we make it up, and what is true to one is not true to the other. So the whole question of truth is, I don't know if it is really necessary, and if we'll get to the end of it. What I wanted to show, and it's not only in that particular novel, is that some people live in such conditions that they don't have the luxury to say this is who I am in a permanent way. We, I can say I'm a Russian writer and professor, and I'm not rich, but life gave me the chance to try to be for some 60 years the same Lyonel Trouillot. But when I have to go out every day to find a way to bring something home for my children to eat or for myself to eat, one, no institution is protecting me. When bullets, I hear bullets every day. At any moment of the day, I can be shot. Who am I? I am the one. I have to be at the moment to be still alive the moment after. And that is what I wanted to talk about. That is what I wanted to show. Too often, uh, we don't realize that in many parts of the world, that is the way people are living. They are living having to be someone different every day, sometimes 3 times a day, to be alive the day after. And I believe in Western literature. Uh, when I read a novel written by one of my French colleagues, friend, I say, well, I don't see those people. I try to write novels in which those people are present. And yeah, and in Haiti, it is a fact that many people do not have birth certificates. And the guy he has to be Danilo today, and he pretends to be a preacher because that's where the money is today. And tomorrow he might be part of a gang or even a gang leader, or one day he might work as a teacher in very bad school, and the other day he will be a vendor of a lottery vendor, a lotto vendor, whatever, whatever. People, too many people in the world are living in such conditions that they have to reinvent uh, self, sometimes twice a day. And what are you going to tell them? You are going to say, well, you must be faithful. Faithful to what? I'm faithful to being alive. And that is the condition of the many Danilos of the world.
Yes. I think we have time for one more question. So, Francine, if you want to get in there.
Let's just stick a little bit with Danilo to finish off because I think it kind of relates to what you were saying that there's a scene where he attended the theater and he cannot understand why the audience would laugh at a particular part in the play where the homeless men are attacked by dogs. Are we to conclude that the gap between the wealthy and the poor is so wide that members of each class are strangers to the other?
You can say that. The play does exist. It is a play by my good friend Sito Cave, Cavalier Polka. And I saw the play 11 times. And each time, people in the audience were laughing. So, what I put in Danilo's words, for one, it is in a way my own words. Why do people laugh at that? And maybe they cannot relate to the condition of those two guys in the streets attacked by the dogs. The dogs from the rich neighborhood.
Mhm.
And it is true that each time the play was given in the audience, people were laughing. Why do you laugh at such a sight in front of such a situation? And I don't have the answer, but I think the question needs to be asked.
Um,
Are we able to really see uh, what the others are suffering? Uh, Once we suffer ourselves, well, we call them, we call the others all the names possible. But so many people have been suffering for such a long time, and in the world, other people have been laughing at them, ignoring them, and if are we going to let the world continue to be a world of indifference, mockery, and injustice?
Okay, so we have a bonus.
I have so many more questions, but we don't have all your time, and so I'm going to stick to just one and a half. Uh, and the final question is: you at the beginning of or much earlier on, you alluded to your brother and sister, your siblings, your friends, you called them, with whom you've been thinking about questions of power and justice with for a long time. And I understand as well that you have an uncle who was an archivist at the National Archives of Haiti. And I just wondered if you could share with our readers a little bit about who your family or your siblings or these people that you've been thinking with for a long time are, for those who might not know. And then the second part of the question is, what can we look forward to from you coming forward in terms of new novels or work?
Uh, I missed the last part of the question.
Yeah, I mean, I can ask it afterwards as well. The first question is about your family and your background, and perhaps why your family is so interested, I suppose, because it's quite it's not that common that we have on a Caribbean writer whose sister and brother are equally uh, published authors and important and thinking on similar themes as well, and so it's interesting.
Well, we were, I'd say we were born into history and literature. And my father and my uncle, they were both historians, and they were both professors of history and literature. So often they would sit down and start discussing. And the interesting thing, they were they didn't have the they did not have the same position about things, so we would be curious and listening to them. And so we were born into that, and I must say that we had access to the two libraries, our father's library and our uncle's library. So we were born into history, literature, and books. And I believe that what we did create in a way. I'm talking about Wolf and Justine and Evelyn. What we did create was the social part of our reasoning, of our way of seeing seeing things, and that question of power and the use of power very early became a very important question to Wolf and in his field of work and in anthropology. That's a question he did ask, and I believe he gave us some very useful answers. And creative writing, it was also a very important question for Evelyn and I, and we did create some magazines and L'Arc-en-Ciel in New York, and Les Cahiers du Vendredi in Port-au-Prince, and later on Lille, Haiti, and with some other friends, I would say Pierre Buteau, historian, and Michel Acacia, uh, sociologist. Uh, we were always discussing about that question of power. If you want to understand the world, I believe you have to understand the logics of power. And if you want to change the world, you have to find a way to understand how to fight against power or to gain power or to redistribute power. So that question of power has always been a very important question to them. Maybe because our father and uncle, when they were discussing, they always avoided to discuss about that question of power. So they gave us a lot, and that question of power, I believe that is our own bringing into the conversation.
Thank you so much. My second part of my question was about your own work. So we've personally, each of us on the panel that read this book, we all loved it. And we're just wondering, what can we expect? What's the next thing coming from you as a novel? But also, are there any other Haitian writers you think we should definitely be reading? If those of us who kind of discovered Haiti through this novel.
I think, but it's not translated. I, I, I think everyone should read René Philoctet's novel Entre les Saints des Saints. To me, it is the greatest novel written by a Asian and published by a Asian writer in the last 25 years. To me, it is a masterpiece. There is another book by Philoctet. This one has been translated, and it's called in French Le Peuple des Terres Mêlées, and it's been translated. That's the only work by Philoctet that has been translated in English. It's been translated in English under the title, the horrible title of Massacre River. But to me, one Asian writer, the poet, people know about his poetry, but the novels by Philoctet are novels I believe everyone should read. As far as my own work, I have a book that just came out in France, and I just learned that it should be very soon available in English, and it's called Veilleuse du Calvaire. And in this one, and women are even more present than in Antoine de Gommiers.
All right. Unfortunately, our time is up. But I want to thank you so much, Lionel, for agreeing to do this interview. It was chilling at times, sobering at other times, absolutely amazing. So, to our viewers, the next time you see us, we'll be reflecting on Lauren Francis Sharma's The Book of the Little Acts. In the meantime, you can read Antoine de Gommiers and let us know on our social media handles at Page Turners Plus what you think of it. Thank you for joining us and have a lovely day.